This video is now in session, and Chris Christie just a couple of days ago said he was going to run, or at least Chris Christie sources said that he had a very big potential to run for the 2024 Republican presidential primary, and it's interesting to see how Chris Christie does, but I can already get a sense of what he will most likely be like in the Republican presidential primary, because being from the Northeast, I know Chris Christie really well in terms of his politics and how he runs government. So, Chris Christie, to get the gist of it, I'll break down my arguments further, but pretty much he's gonna have a tough time in the Republican presidential primary, but if he does get past the primary, if he somehow gets past it, he will actually not be that bad for the actual presidential election. Chris Christie is one of the better candidates to run for the Republican Party. Certainly not Donald Trump, and certainly not Ted Cruz, but possibly other candidates like Ron DeSantis, like Chris Christie. That said, Chris Christie, unlikely that he's going to get past the 2016 presidential primary. But it's not because of any scandals he's had as governor. It's more that he just does not seem like he just does not resonate with Republican voters nationwide. He is like one of the Northeast Republican governors, kind of similar to Mitt Romney or the current governors that we have of Chris Sununu or Larry Hogan. All of these candidates would do pretty well in a presidential election, but they're just not that popular with their own base. Mitt Romney is getting less popular with the Republican Party. Chris Sununu is different from the status quo Republican these days, and Chris Christie falls into around the same category, even though he's a little bit more Republican than Chris Sununu. Just the fact that he's from the Northeast and he's a Republican already makes some stereotypes behind him that he's a country club Republican. And it certainly doesn't help that he does have his own baggage to clean up with the Fort Lee scandal, Bridgegate. This was a pretty infamous event in the Northeast, and a lot of people in the Northeast would probably remember this. If Chris Christie does get out ahead to the point where he does make it through the New York and New Jersey primaries, they most likely would not vote for him just because of something like Bridgegate and because of his track record after the 2013 presidential election. There was a time where New Jersey state government had to be shut down, and Chris Christie went to the beaches, which were closed to the public, even though apparently they weren't closed to him. And that created another scandal. So it's honestly not good for Chris Christie in terms of New Jersey, but these are all easy things to clean up. This is limited mainly to New Jersey, New York, and possibly Pennsylvania and Delaware. But besides those states, it's unlikely that these kinds of scandals would press Christie nationwide, primarily because they're just in New Jersey, and for both of these issues, they're more suited or tailored to those politics rather than nationwide politics, because nationwide politics is not really about whether you closed a bridge lanes for nefarious reasons, or if you be a hypocrite and go onto the beaches. It's less about those issues and more about issues of healthcare, infrastructure, relief, welfare, etc. So he'll mostly be fine with that. It's just that he wouldn't really do well amongst other Republican candidates, because just out of the potential candidates list, there could already be a problem for Chris Christie. Ron DeSantis is way more popular than Chris Christie, and he'd probably be a better person to take down Chris Christie than the opposite. And then we also have Tom Cotton. We have Mike Pence, Marco Rubio, even Donald Trump Jr. or Rick Scott. I doubt Rick Scott is actually going to run, but it's a possibility. And obviously, you have Donald Trump. So it's it's a crowded field. Oh, and as well as Nikki Haley. It's the thing is, Chris Christie again would do well presidentially speaking. I think that if he were to be the Republican nominee, he would actually make the election pretty close and would flip a few states. That said, I do think at the same time though that a lot of states, a lot of Republican states, would flip back to being Democrats, i.e., Ohio, North Carolina, as well as Arizona, and potentially Texas, because Chris Christie just doesn't. Chris Christie doesn't seem like the person who would appeal to these kinds of voters. Rather, he would appeal to these kinds of voters, which is similar to how Donald Trump won in the 2020, in the 2024. Not the 2024, the 2020 election. So I think that mainly the status quo will be kept, except New Hampshire maybe flipping for Republicans. Maine 2nd District would stay. Nebraska 2nd District could flip for Republicans. And then he could possibly flip Wisconsin. But besides that, I'd say that he is not. He's gonna do as well as most other Republican candidates, which is close to winning, but not really that close to winning at the same time, because Joe Biden will be the incumbent, and as the incumbent, it's very hard to beat it. Like, for Joe Biden in 2020, it was very hard to beat Donald Trump just because he was an incumbent. Donald Trump lost by only 232 electoral votes, which is the same margin as Hillary Clinton lost in 2016. So it wasn't that far away from actually winning 270. And replicating the same thing in 2020 for 2024 for Republicans is it's going to be hard. But Chris Christie could be the one to do it. He's just not the best person to do it. The best person is still Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. This video is now adjourned, and I'll see you in the next one.